Hello and welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers, by gamers. I'm Junglist.
And I'm Kapowski, and I've got to say, Jung, I'm totally stoked about tonight's show.
And why are you totally stoked?
Because we've got games to talk about.
Oh yeah, we've got a diamond in the rough, Call of Juarez, plus the 360 title that's on everyone's lips, Gears of War.
Evolved stops by and shows us how the pros play Call of Duty 2.
And if that don't float your boat, we take a look at making 3D models of game characters.
But first, here's Gamers News.
Bungie have announced that the Halo 3 multiplayer beta will be available to anyone with a 360 around the second quarter of 2007.
A vote on the Twitch Gurus site has decided which slang terms will be included in the Australian version of Office 2007. The terms sickie, Sheila, and bogan have been confirmed.
And in a landmark legal battle, the CSIRO have succeeded in claiming royalties from Buffalo, a US-based manufacturer. The CSIRO had patented the use of their wireless transfer technology, also known as Wi-Fi, in the late 90s. Although this could set a precedent resulting in royalties on any WLAN product made, the CSIRO still faces many challenges as it continues unfinished legal battles against the likes of Dell, Intel, Hewlett-Packard, Netgear, and Microsoft.
This week we'll look at cooling. In the past, air cooling has been the de facto standard, able to provide ample cooling without too much noise. As graphics cards and processors become more powerful, however, water cooling is starting to come in as a new, more common standard. So which setup is right for you? If you don't plan on overclocking, the stock heatsink and fan should just be fine. But if you do plan on overclocking or use a high-end CPU, a third-party cooler is a must. While air cooling is sufficient in most cases, it's only if you have a very high-end CPU or plan on serious overclocking that you'll need water cooling. As we have one such very high-end CPU, we're going to be going with water cooling in our system. An average water cooling setup will contain a radiator, water block, fan, reservoir, pump, and a few lengths of tubing. While there are other items you can add to your water cooling loop, those are the basic essentials. When installing your water cooling loop, there are a few different ways of configuring it. Generally, the best way is to have your pump, then the radiator, then the water block, then the reservoir, and back to the pump. This allows for the coolest water to be flowing over the CPU, allowing for more heat to be dissipated. So here's how to install a basic water cooling kit. First step is to prepare the CPU. Now, we've already put heatsink paste on our CPU, so it's prepared. Next, you'll need to place your water block near or on the CPU so that you can figure out the approximate length of tubing that you'll need. We've already cut our tubing to lengths so that it fits between the radiator and the pump and the water block. So let's attach the tubing onto the water block. You need to make sure you put the collars onto the tubing beforehand, otherwise you'll have to pull the tubing off and start again. Make sure you connect both at once. Now that they're connected, you'll need to connect it onto the pump and the radiator. Then connect the other one. Place the heatsink over the top of the CPU in pretty much the position that it's going to finish in. Have the bracket for the CPU ready so that you can place it on with one hand while the other one holds the block down. Screw the block down using the provided screws, making sure that there's an even pressure on all four corners of the block. This particular system has a spring mount system on the bottom of the motherboard, so we don't need to worry about a spring on top. The next step is to add the coolant into the system. Use a funnel. Coolant usually comes in a bottle like this, or you can buy deionized water and add your own coolant. Once it's reached the full height, you may need to turn on the pump in order to circulate the water through the system, then repeat it. When the reservoir appears to stay full, that may not mean that you've had all the air bled out of your system. So put the lid on the reservoir and then give the system a bit of a shake to free up any air bubbles that may be caught inside the radiator, as this is a key spot for heat dissipation. Then switch the pump back on. As we can see, the water level's not going down anymore, so this means the system is successfully bled. You can turn the pump off again. Now you can close the doors of your computer up. Next week, we'll look at case mods and talk to one of the best modders in Australia.
Good game! And the Good Game t-shirt for this week goes to... Good Game!
Can you name the game for this week?
Here's your hint. It was developed by Weston for the Sega Mega Drive in 1991, but the original was released on the Commodore 64. It features the usual fun landscapes and addictive gameplay that appear in most good RPGs.
Good luck. Whoa!
Good game. Who's next? Yeah, that was beautiful, baby.
State your name, soldier.
Private Augustus Cole, Alpha Squad, sir.
War is the name, Gears of War is the game. The exclusive Xbox 360 title has finally hit the shelves.
In Gears of War, you play as Marcus Phoenix, a man made for two things: kicking ass and chewing bubblegum. And believe me when I say this guy is all out of bubblegum.
I expect you to give me 110%, Phoenix.
I'm not doing this for you. Move!
It's your job to battle against the Locust Horde, who have overrun the planet since Emergence Day. Of course, being a war game, a lot of effort has gone into the weapons. Take the Hammer of Dawn, for example, which hones in a huge red laser beam to destroy larger enemies. But I had the most fun with a machine gun that has a chainsaw attachment, and it really does take me back to the good old days of Doom.
And there's a common theme here. The game has strong influences from Half-Life 2, Halo, even the movie Pitch Black. Although it's not nearly as clever as Half-Life 2, in my opinion, this beats Halo. And the camera work is great. Every time you go in for a melee, it changes angle, and as you run, the camera bobs around like a war movie.
In fact, if you have the hardware to show this game off, the graphics are really spectacular.
Even on my TV, which I found in the street, this game's sweet as.
Gears is essentially linear, with lots of challenges through the journey. You have a point of interest button that will show you the right way to go. And you can often choose which route you want to take through an area. And in multiplayer, you can help each other out by one of you taking out the key locust while the other ducks round the other way.
If you can, I'd recommend playing it on co-op. There's two main characters and lots of opportunities for two-man tactics, although the split-screen option kinda ruins the magnificent graphics.
I guess the new key feature of the game is the cover effect. You can hide behind a wall or an object and still be able to aim with your crosshair at one of the Locust Hordes. But if you stay there for too long, they'll jump up at you and melee your ass. The AI are actually intelligent.
And it's not the first time we've seen a cover system in a game. In fact, the cover system in Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter is better. I was worried at the start that the cover system might be a bit of a gimmick, but it's not really. They make strong use of it throughout the whole game. Some players might get tired of doing the same thing over and over, though.
Oh, yeah.
I like the vehicle level. You can actually switch between driving the car and using a turret when you need to. And most of all, the conventional way of opening doors, kicking them down.
Well, despite its apparent flaws, Gears of War knows its strengths, and it concentrates on them. Even though it's not an FPS game, FPS players will love it due to the elements that are just plain badass. I was a bit disappointed with the ending, but I still think it's the best 360 exclusive game I've seen so far. I'm giving it 8 out of 10. What about you, Kapowski?
Well, I like the way Gears of War really involves the player. I think the controls are very easy to use, and the weapons are a lot of fun. Though I did find the graphics were a little bit contrasty on my small-ass TV. HD looks great. I'm gonna give it 9 out of 10 chooks. The competition to win the Beast has officially closed, and the judges are hard at work watching all the entries.
Be small, Mr. Nuts.
We're impressed with all the entries. Let's take a sneak peek at some of them.
Jimmy spends over 16 hours a day playing violent video games. He only ever gets up to eat, sleep, and go to the toilet. Violently.
Now, when's the last time you played a game so original that it was almost in a genre of its own? The game is called World of Alex Hempleton, or WHOA for short. It revolves around the life of an extraordinary man who works as a mysterious special agent with his brother Sven Hempleton. Together they are the Super Hempleton Brothers.
Hi, I'm Kapowski.
And I'm Junglist, and welcome to the segment we like to call Bad Game. I'm gonna have to give myself 10 rubber chickens because I've got an awesome beard.
Well, I can't really give myself any rubber chickens because I'm not good at the games I play, except DDR. Yeah! I can win medals!
So thanks to all who entered. The winner will be announced in our last show on December the 12th.
Good game.
Dude, you can't have all this stuff running at once. You'll blow the fuse.
No, it's all right, man. I'm practicing my micro. Besides, they're all on different circuits. I'm bored.
Dude, great work. Great work.
Make it work again.
Oh, forget about it. Look, we can do something new. Let's make some paper models. Quake ones.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. Where'd you learn how to do this?
Where indeed. Bartik Joshi, welcome to a good game. You're doing a PhD in surgical science and you're also a paper modeler. Tell us about that.
Part of my PhD work, I needed to try to take models that were in the computer, so polygonal models, and turn them into flat textures so we could texture them properly so they'd behave very well in our surgical simulation environment. I thought it'd be interesting to sort of try to apply that same unfolding technology to actual characters from Quake. And what I did then was that I took the models and I wrote some custom code to take the models out of Quake, and then I fed them into Pepakura Designer, in which you can do sort of a semi-interactive unfolding. I printed it out and I actually made the model and I stuck up a picture on my website. I got a couple of emails about it because people seemed like really interested in getting a copy of it. So what I did then was I went back and I made sure that the unfolding corresponded to the different parts of the model. So for example, I'd have a separate unfolding for the arms, a separate unfolding for the legs, and a separate unfolding from the body. So I put that all together formally and nicely, and then I released that online. And from there, I got a lot more interest, and I just kept on unfolding models from various different games. So I got a couple of models from Quake, and I got a couple of models from Half-Life as well, and there are more on the way.
Tell us about some of the funny things people have done with your models.
Sure. I've heard about people who have made some really, really big copies of the models. So they've made giant copies of them to sort of have them in their office. They're a couple of feet high. People have been taking the models and taking them to sort of really strange places. I got an email from a guy who had an Emmy in his office. So I've got a picture of the Shambler next to an Emmy, which is just kind of weird.
How do I put one of these together?
Sure, okay. All right, what you do is that you just download the PDF and print it out. So you can just print it out on ordinary paper. The pattern will specify the different parts of the model. Mm-hmm. You take the separate pieces, you glue the sub-pieces together, and then you glue them all together into a larger model. So it's pretty much your sort of standard papercraft work. It's just that it's been applied to models from games.
I've also noticed when I was picking this one up, it's got a little bit of weight to it. What did you do there to make it stand?
Well, that's right. Now, because the models were designed to be in the computer, they weren't actually designed to stand in real life. So what I did was, with a lot of the models, I just put a couple of washers in the feet. So washers or bolts or just little weights that you put in the feet so that they will stand up on their own.
You've been making models with Quake 1 and Half-Life. What's next for you? What's the next big thing?
Sure. I'd like to try to move on to sort of more complex models. So I'm going to be looking at some of the polygon reduction algorithms to try to take some of the more complex models from stuff like Half-Life 2, reduce them down to something a little bit simpler so it can still do the unfolding and generate the models for some of the more sort of up-to-date games.
Baltic, thanks for showing us your models. I think I'll have to take this one home with me, and yeah, good luck with the next ones.
No worries.
Okay, see ya.
Cheers.
Good game.
It's now time for a Call of Duty 2 Masterclass.
We've got Daniel, aka Evolved. He's going to show us how to play Call of Duty 2. How you doing, Daniel?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Pretty good. Now, I'm a Call of Duty 2 noob.
Yep.
So from a noob level, what should I concentrate on to get to competitive play?
Definitely think deathmatch is the way to go. It's basically you versus everybody else in the server, like most other games. You learn your skills a lot quicker with preferred weapons. Sticking with Thompsons and MP44s will help you survive a lot more in the deathmatch. Definitely a good way to learn the maps, good way to learn the weapons, and yeah, get a good understanding for the game.
Do I need to burst fire much? Or?
There's not much recoil in COD 2, so you can kind of get away with it a bit more with holding the finger down.
How important is leaning and not showing most of your body?
It's very important. As much as people hate leaning, it's going to mean the difference between surviving and dying straight away, and you don't want to be waiting 2 minutes to respawn again. So basically, if you're standing out in the open, you're an easy target for a good shooter, but if you're leaning off a corner, you're only presenting either your head or your shoulder, so you're a lot safer.
So there must be certain choke points on the map that are good to lean?
Yeah, some spots are very common. At the start of the round, you'll see people always running through certain parts of the buildings, so if you learn to pre-fire that section, you can get a lot of easy kills that way. This is a big lean spot here. And you can see through this crack. You can shoot to the B-bomb, shoot to the Panzer. So basically, if you know the pre-fire spots, you can just do quick leans. Something like that. Because if you have a look at it from this side, all they're going to see is a little head poking through there or a gun.
It's pretty much every time you're coming out from a corner, you're doing the leans first before you come out?
You want to check out the location because there's a lot of people that will just be like, you know, sitting in a corner like this, waiting for you to jump through here because you can't just walk through it. So people that practice a lot will know spots like that.
And that all comes down a bit to knowing your map as well?
Yeah, definitely knowing the map, knowing choke points, knowing the bomb positions, knowing the routes in and out of the bomb sites. Definitely the safest and the smartest way to learn.
So if I've gotten all that down and I'm good on pub, what sort of skills do the good clans in Call of Duty 2 look for?
Definitely an all-round player. You want to have skills in rifling and machine gunning. It's definitely a big bonus to be able to have that kind of flexibility in your team, being able to swap a rifler with a 44 and so on like that. If you want, you can go for a more specialized weapon like a sniper or a shotgun. A lot of people write the shotgun off as like a noob weapon, but you have to be very smart to use it well and to survive in the matches.
And when you're in a war, do you have specific roles for team members?
Yeah, definitely. With specialized roles such as a sniper and a shotgun, you definitely usually have someone that's dedicated to that role. So you always have one sniper who snipes on every map and one shotgunner who's always shotgunner because he gets the smoke as well, which is a very important part of the game, especially when you're trying to get into a bomb site or to cover a defuse or retreat from the bomb site. So they're very important roles. So you always have a shotgunner, a sniper. Usually a good mix would be 2 riflers and a 44, something like that.
And what about good communication?
Yeah, good communications, calling is very important. Knowing, you know, where someone's moving from to where they've been killed, how many enemies they've seen, so you can rotate quick enough. It's a very big part of the game.
And your favorite map is?
Dawnville, definitely. It's a big map, it's spaced out really well, and it relies a lot on rotation with the team, so it's good for getting your communications down well, and if you have good communications, you do well at the map.
Now let's get in the game and show us. Everyone's running away from you.
Oh, shut the back.
So when you're leaning out of a corner, you need to practice holding your breath at the same time as well?
Yeah, with the sniper, you hold your breath just to get a better accuracy. So basically, you can see the gun moving around now. That's because I'm not breathing in. As soon as I breathe in, it's sitting still. And then when you run out of breath, it starts to sway again. One of the biggest things that people don't realize is as soon as you're taking that breath, it's not 100% accurate yet until about half a second afterwards. So breathing before you actually lean out the corner, and then once you're out in the corner, you're going to have 100% accuracy.
Good game!
Once upon a time, there was a young hedgehog, not dissimilar to this one. But to cut a long story short, the young hedgehog died. He died because he was too busy watching The team! Previously on the team.
We are all a sexy bunch of men.
This week on the team, we discover a cure to prostate cancer and work out how to change a flat tire in the rain.
What's he doing? Hey, hi. Sorry, I'm late now. Look, that's not what happens. This week, this happens. But that's next. This week, we're looking at the life and times of Benedict, the attractive Puerto Rican. His nationality is irrelevant except for his accent.
Hola, mi hombre.
Hot, huh? Benedict was born in the summer of '83, the youngest in a happy family of 7. After graduating top of his class at school, he went straight into the family business, Roman chariot race reenactments. It was while he was at just such a race that he met his girlfriend, Emily. Emily was petite and lovely, but also had a rather violent streak. Thus, she now works as an amateur cage and backyard fighter, which she combines with her love for interior decorating.
Okay, so seriously, when I suggest you putting a chair in your freaking money corner would increase your chi, I didn't really mean it as a suggestion. Seriously, what were you thinking, that I wouldn't notice all the freaking negative energy?
The two are a very happy couple, and sometimes Benedict helps Emily practice her moves.
So what I really want is to be able to hit you from over here, but make it look like I'm coming from, over there. Maybe if I could just... Epa!
Oh, they look good. What if you did... Ah! Great. That's really good.
Thank you.
Now, what Virginia doesn't know is any of that. Yes, that. So Virginia, the little minx, is angling on Benedict for a moment.
Hey, Benedict, do you want to see me dance?
Unfortunately, as she dances, Simon on the other side of the field notices and begins to put 2 and 2 together.
That's funny. Men don't usually dance like that. Wait a second.
Yeah, I'm a woman.
She doesn't have Tourette's. He's a woman.
And thus, all is revealed. Next week on the team.
He's a woman.
And the week after that?
He's not a he. He's a she.
Seriously, yes, she's a man. And you've known now for 2 future weeks.
I know. It's just, now I think I like her.
Well, stick it out, big man. That's all in the future on the team.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Good game.
There have been a few big-name Western FPS titles released in the past.
Yeah!
But none of them have really captured the feel of a Western. Enter Call of Juarez. Unlike its predecessors like Red Dead Revolver and Gun, this game hasn't received any hype at all. In fact, it almost didn't even get published in Australia.
I gave you life, and I can take it away.
You play as 2 main characters. You've got Reverend Ray, he's a retired gunslinger who became a priest 20 years ago. Then you've got Billy Candle, a drifter boy who has no father, no last name, and no hope. So we've decided to split this review up into 3 sections. Kapowski, let's start with the good.
Well, I've got to say, it's been quite a while since I've seen a game with such a great atmosphere. It's so Texas with the cactuses and the tumbleweed. It's pretty good. And I must say, it's not too over-the-top Texas like he sure has a pretty mouth. And another thing, the dialogue really makes the game as well. You've got a lot of banter and things going on in the background.
You're not the law, Ray. You need to let the law handle this. I represent a higher law, God's law.
Another thing that makes up the atmosphere so well is the music. It actually changes depending on what level you're in. So if you're in a stealth mode or an action sequence, it really does change.
And the story is superb. Playing as 2 emotionally complex characters offers a unique method of storytelling, and it feels more like a movie than a game, really. Plus, they leave cleverly placed gaps in the storyline, so it leaves unanswered questions. This is a rare thing in games and should be applauded.
God has made me his right hand, his judge, his jury, and his executioner.
Playing as Reverend Ray, you get to blast through every Wild West cliche there is. And I must say, it's fantastic.
That's right, there's the train robbery, the horse chases, and of course, walking down the main road of town, with every footstep ringing of spurs on dust, tumbleweeds rolling past, and all the windows boarded up.
I came not to send peace, but a sword.
The Reverend has a concentration mode, which means he can draw quicker than his enemies. After every level ends, it ends up with a duel against a big boss. Ray's dual 6 shooters, shotguns, and Bible quotes are a superb mix.
Which brings us to the bad. Playing as Billy Candle, half the time you spend sneaking into girls' rooms to get some lovin', and the other half you spend running away because no matter how good you do on the stealth levels, you always get caught. Billy Candle's early levels are tedious, and I'd even say unnecessary. In some levels, you're free to roam a vast landscape, and those levels are great, but for the most part, it's painfully linear. Plus, Billy's whole using a whip to get to higher areas trick is overused.
Other than that, the control setup makes it pretty difficult to use anything other than defaults. Also, the quirkiness of the aim, especially when you're on a horse. The AI is terrible, but you don't really notice it that much. And the multiplayer is quite fun. However, there aren't any Australian servers up yet. So now we move on to the ugly. Well, I'm sorry to say that this game has Starforce on it. Starforce is a method of copy protection that has been accused of being malicious to your machine. Funnily enough, Americans that buy this game don't have it with Starforce, but here in Australia, we're stuck with it.
There are Starforce driver removal tools on the net, so if you want to find out more about it, just type in Starforce into your favorite search engine. But for now, Kapowski, let's talk chicken quesadillas.
Well, I think you understated before, Jung. I think that Billy's levels are a pain in the ass. And for anyone that doesn't have an interest in the Wild Wild West, well, just forget about it. And I'm one of those people. And if this game was perfection, I'd give it more than what I'm about to give it. So I'm going to give it 6 out of 10 chooks. How about you, Jung?
Well, I think it's great that this game has succeeded in a genre where only others have failed. And if you dig Western movies, I'd say check it out, definitely. I'm giving it 8 out of 10. Well, if you haven't guessed the retro game yet for this week, it was Wonder Boy in Monster World, a very enjoyable RPG with a great magic system and interesting benefits for different equipment.
Next week, the doc will show us how to set up your own LAN.
And there's also the small issue of the Nintendo Wii.
That's right, Jung and I go hands-on with Zelda, Twilight Princess. It's all happening on Good Game next week. Till next week, folks, Kapowski out.
Junglist out.
Well, Farmer and the Beaver and the Capo Game Emergency, yeah!